Welcome, everyone. New episode of AI Crossfield. This is the show where we're trying to answer one question and one question only. Where is AI currently earning its keep in a business versus where it's just a noise? Today, I'm with Brian Massey. He is the convergence scientist, a founder of Convergence Scientist in Austin, Texas, and one of the first agencies in the world since 2007. Brian, thank you for coming in.
I'm glad you invited me.
Welcome. Let's make a start with a bit of background about what you do and also conversion scientist, and just give people an understanding of your agency and your background.
So we are completely focused on what you would call the post-click experience of websites. We will take the organic traffic, the paid search traffic, any advertising traffic, referral traffic, direct traffic, whatever is coming. And our job is to look at the analytics data, to do customer research, and to begin to understand what a website is doing or not doing that is causing people to leave. People who would buy your product or would sign up for the consultation, why are they not doing that? And then we deduce experiments to prove whether or not our deductions are correct. So we do a lot of A/B testing, as I said, customer research and things like that. So our job is to diligently and rigorously over time give the visitors what they need to take action on your website.
Brilliant. And I understand you coming from a writing code background. How did you kind of get into, putting on a lab code around marketing, and what happened that kind of made you make that move?
Well, I graduated with a bachelor's in computer science, and I had some social skills. So I didn't see myself so much sitting in a cubicle, and I went into sales. I kind of knew at an early age, I guess I have a authority problem. And so I kind of suspected that I would run my own company at some point. But I went into sales, semiconductor sales of all things, hardware, rose to my highest level of incompetence in that, and decided, well, I'd been assigned out to Northern California. I wanted to move back to Austin. And so I got back into software. I had enough opinions on marketing and sales from the time I spent at TI that they were like, you're not a very good programmer, but you'd be a good marketing manager. So that's how I got into marketing. I started my first company in the 90s when the internet was all exciting and new. And it's exactly the feeling we have right now around AI. It's like there's so many possibilities, so much that can be done. How do we figure out which ideas we're going to pursue? Ran that through the 90s, and then the dot-com bust took out our customers, which took us out. But that was really that transition. So in the beginning of this century, the early 2000s, I was building websites for mostly for business-to-business technology companies here in Austin. I'm great at building them. I'm impatient when it's just time to put quarters in the machine. So that was my journey. And then when I finally realized that I really need to do my own thing, computer programmer, sales, marketing, building websites, there wasn't really anything else I could do except put on a lab coat and found Conversion Sciences. Lab coat is a kind of a tongue-in-cheek nod to old style science, and it kind of pervades our marketing. And it's been I wish I could say that I tested it and came to this conclusion through a series of brand tests, but it turned out to be one of those decisions that I just made that has really paid off because people remember the lab coat. They might forget what I said, but they always remember the lab coat.
I noticed that you guys are very niche in what you do. How much of that is, client education in terms of people are probably approaching you with, we want results, we want our marketing to work. Do you not think that coming to you guys with that mindset and you kind of put the lab coat on and there's going to be some experimentation in place that will kind of put people off?
I don't wear the lab coat on sales calls, if that's what you're asking. I'm sure that there's a segment of the market that does put that off, but we've kept the agency small on purpose. And so that means we have some liberty to pick our clients. And we want, our North Star is length of engagement. So we recently looked at our current book of business, and the average length of engagement is 42 months. That's why we've been successful. And so the people that are comfortable with the sciencey approach and want to use a rigorous science-based approach to their marketing are a perfect fit for us and stay with us for a long time.
Interesting. And that's
when you choose a brand, one of the things you've got to come to terms with is who you're going to be chasing away with that brand, and be comfortable with letting those people go. That's the hard part of building a brand.
when I look at your website as well, you've got the 180 days guarantee on the
Mhm.
work. For a lot of agencies, that might seem way too long, but kind of tells that obviously you guys in it for the long run, which is great.
Yeah. It's, you've got to have a strong offer, and that's stronger. Some people will, not take pay until they show results. So there are other stronger offers out there, but we think that misaligns goals.
AI hype versus the real. This is the bit that we try to discuss in this podcast. What are your thoughts on? Can I just get like a high level understanding of where are your thoughts on? Obviously, you've been through the dot-com bubble. You've seen the goods and bad of it. How much
Mhm.
of similarity are you seeing compared to AI, and where does it kind of sit?
I mean, every huge technological boom comes with a correction. So there is going to be a correction. The question, especially in the States, which is what I'm most familiar with, is are we assigning dollars to building out AI capability so much that it is going to bring down the rest of the, financial system? Is it going to be like 2008 again, where one sector is over leveraged and that sector is connected to all the other sectors, and so it becomes, a catastrophe? There will be a correction, and just a question of how widespread it's going to be. We've had a lot of challenges. The businesses that we work with have had a lot of challenges, tariffs and things like that. And it's been fantastically amazing at how resilient, in America at least, how resilient those businesses are. I can't use this supply chain anymore. I'm going to find other sources, or, I'm going to build them in house or things like that. So I'm kind of counting on that continued resilience, and that we've kind of had to go through these challenges to hopefully ease out the correction when it does come. We'll see.
That's a really interesting take. When it comes to conversion, has AI moved any kind of conversion number for you guys?
Well, yeah. So there's really two things that the language models are doing, and I think the terms we use here are important. So I don't like to use AI because that is artificial intelligence. We haven't gotten there yet. When we talk about the language models, which is what the majority of these tools are, we relegate them to tools, and I think it unsensationalizes the conversation. So I'm going to say LLMs, language models, because that's really what they are, and it's easier to say than generative transformers or something like that. There are two things that the language models are doing for us. They're doing things that we've had to do before, and usually doing it faster. Doing things that we couldn't do before. So they're adding capabilities. And right now we've got portions, for instance, of our dev team. We have a coding agent that has really allowed us to develop tests and get our testing velocity through development much faster. It's been fantastic. We have a QA agent, which is still a work in progress, but we can point it at a website after we've implemented a test and make sure that is properly QA'd. This is one of the biggest time sinks for the conversion scientists that work for us. They're working with the client, designing the tests and shepherding the tests through design and development. They have to do the QA, and ultimately they're responsible for the quality of the test, the code. So it's saving an immense amount of time there. On the other side, there's two things that have been challenging in testing. So testing messaging is difficult. We can come up with a hypothesis that says, why don't we try changing the messaging on this page to agitate the problem? Or why don't we change the messaging on this page to be more emotional, less rational? And both are, would be based on data that we've collected. Problem is that it's hard to write copy different from the way that you write it. Well, it turns out that language models are very good at that. And we use a model that's based on Myers-Briggs to communicate with the language models. And we say, we want you to rewrite this copy in a voice that is rational and for a deliberate decision maker. That would be a Myers-Briggs SJ, for instance. That's an added capability. Now it is easier for us to test revised messaging, just as long as we can get the revised messaging past the client, because there's a little gag reflex at the different voices that we're testing. Another area that we've developed an AI skill in is aligning ads with landing pages. So ads are delivering traffic to our pages, and then we have to optimize the pages. But if the ad promises something and the landing page doesn't keep the promise, there's really not much that we can do to improve that. We can improve the layout, and have incremental increases in the conversion rate. But redesigning that landing page to match the ads is, there's 15, 20% lift right there. So I should say 10 to 20% lift. So an AI now that can go and pull the entire portfolio, the ad portfolio from Meta and from Google Search, and then compare it to the landing pages, gives us a report that we can be very, very actionable on. And then we have an AI that will actually design a better landing page, so we can manage a portfolio of landing pages very closely aligned with the ads that are driving that traffic. And that was so time consuming and difficult before that we couldn't do it. So been pretty spectacular.
Really interesting. What's your approach in terms of identifying where AI could help and where it's just gonna maybe take you on the wrong rabbit hole and the wrong direction? How do you identify, let's call it use cases, even though I don't like that term? How do you identify areas in the business and you bring AI into it?
Yeah, there are a lot of rabbit holes that you go down, and it's kind of the nature of our business. There are certain things that we do that we have rigorous processes for, but our best conversion scientists are the ones that are like, I wonder, and then they'll go and they'll dive into the analytics and see if they can find evidence to see if, to follow kind of their curiosity. I'm wondering if pages that have this badge on them are converting at a higher rate. And so we're kind of used to going down rabbit holes, and the data may end up saying like, no, there's nothing here. And so I think we've kind of done it that way. There are some obvious things in our process where we're like, yeah, we need a coding agent, we need a QA agent. And those are pretty obvious. But the other things have kind of come out of our own curiosity and exploration, rather than getting together and prioritizing the problems in the business and the things that we should be doing. And I think this is the way our culture learns. There's other cultures that are more regimented and problem solving, but this is kind of the way we learn. We're more of a dive in and try some things rather than put a plan together and do some training, right?
Yeah, and I think that's especially for this space. It's kind of the fast, let's fail quicker approach. What is the kind of wrong questions that every client asks you about this technology or artificial intelligence? What are the kind of the perception that they've got about AI?
Interestingly enough, we don't really have clients driving a lot of that. So we've had a client come in and they said, we want to hire you, but we want to make sure that you're using AI. So what they're looking for is, a lower cost or a higher level of service from using AI tools. They just want to make sure that we're doing that. We recently co-bid on a project to completely redesign a website, rebuild a website that had a lot of technical debt on it. And, the client was looking for, hey, can you not vibe code this and do this in a couple of weeks? A project that was slated to do, 3 months. So I think that's kind of a mistake, is like, okay, we're going to come in and vibe code things and everything's going to get fast. And Fable 5 is going to redesign our website and it'll be launched in a couple of weekends, sort of a thing. You can seed and provide the context for the language models that includes all the customer research and extracts the knowledge of the customer from the business and what you've learned in A/B tests and things like that. But I think that is the wrong question. The better question is, how are we using AI in that second case? How are we using it to make things better, to do things that are strategic differentiators rather than just, do things faster?
Were there areas that are super clear for you guys in terms of AI is not going to touch this? Do you have a certain areas where AI is not approachable or is not sort of discussed in that area because whether it's creative or any other reasons?
Yeah. So, people do hire us. They come in and they hire us because they want to get more revenue from the traffic they're investing in, right? But they stay with us because they have a team member that becomes invaluable, the conversion scientist. So someone who can answer almost any question, anything from should we change the order of our nav items to should we launch this new project? Should we create some bundles around these products? Strategic questions. could we increase our prices without decreasing transactions? What's the elasticity of our pricing? And so in that sense, if they were to leave the agency, it would be like letting go of a trusted member of their team. It's going to be very hard for AI to inject in that. Where it is more, where we feel it more palpably right now is on that acquisition side. So you can go to ChatGPT and you can put your URL in there and say, like, give me 10 good ideas for improving my conversion rates. And it will give you 10 good sounding ideas. It would be like, like asking me. I would come up with different ones. A lot of those ideas are things that we wouldn't test. And half of them are not going to, have any effect on your conversion rate. But it's convincing. And so you don't need to hire conversion sciences for these ideas. You can just go change those things and, assume that you're improving things. But the testing and making sure that you're isolating variables and all of the things that go into designing these experiments are a lot trickier. I think the language models will get there. I mean, they are improving very rapidly. I think the language models will get to a point where they will be able to very handily diagnose and design experiments for people. So on the acquisition side is where we're seeing most of the pressure. On the retention side, still a very human game. And I think, agencies that have high touch models where, they're putting trusted employees with their customers are going to continue to win.
What's next for you guys in terms of technological advances and adoption of technology, or getting into new markets with AI? With, as you said, you've got already some coding agents, QA agents. So AI is kind of getting integrated into your business. Do you see that as an opportunity for you to expand, or is it more like, let's make sure that they're doing what we need them to do before kind of expanding into more customers or scaling with the business? Is that, if that's the target?
Well, so the eventuality, if you play this out, and about 30% of our book of business is in e-commerce. I don't know if it's 5 years. I don't know if it's 3 years. But when the majority of visits to these websites are agents who are doing the shopping for the customers, it's a completely different game. It switches from behavioral science, which is what we do, human-based behavioral science, to do I have the right data streams available? Are we giving the agents everything that they need to recommend our products to their customers? And the agents are going to know a lot about their customers, more than we could ever gather, with first party data or even aggregated data, which we don't typically play a lot with. So that's going to be the real challenge. Are we going to have to morph into a more purely data company, where we're, our job is to make sure that, products are communicating themselves to the agents? And I think it's going to happen on the B2B lead generation side, the B2C lead generation side. Our customers are going to type like, I need to find a place that can help me with my HR and payroll. And it'll go off and search for them all and fill out a spreadsheet and give you the pros and cons and estimated pricing and what the reviews are. And our websites are simply a source of data for the agents. People will still come, but they just need to get that sense of trust by looking at a website. But most of the work is going to be done autonomously. So this is the challenge. What does conversion sciences become in that situation?
Yeah, I think a really important word you said there is trust. The easiest thing for AI today is just spin off a dashboard or a couple of numbers in there or any information you need. But how accurate that these numbers are and how rigorous they are is the bit where the trust is coming to a place.
I think that's an area the LLMs are going to continue to excel in. As they get better at what they do, we're going to trust them more. We're going to name them. We're going to genderize them, anthropomorphize them. And, we'll be able to assign trust to our particular agents. Grok just released a very easy to use bot. And I think, this is the sort of killer app that I've been looking for. What is the Facebook that really launches social media? There's going to be an app like that that's going to just pierce the consumer market. And it'll be a significant hockey stick in terms of the use of these agents, rather than going and shopping for myself. And we'll trust them. We'll trust them like a person.
Yeah. One last question before we wrap up, Brian. I think if you had one magic wand or a wish to change anything in your business or industry today, what would that be?
Magic wand. I would end the way that people redesign websites. Right now, we still have this culture of hire a smart creative team, have this small team make tens of thousands of decisions on what the new website's going to look like and how it's going to work and what the visitors want. And, they're doing research and stuff to back them up. But we still develop a website and then we push it out into the marketplace all at once and cross our fingers and hope that it increases our conversion rate. Even if it's objectively better, that's when we get called. And it's really a 50-50 coin toss as to whether the new website is going to improve things or hurt things. So I would have that stop and have people using data, forward testing. A lot of our testing on redesigns is just buying insurance. We have a lot of data and great insights, but you make too many wrong decisions and you're going to reduce the conversion rate because you have to make so many decisions. So test it, figure out if it's going to work. That's why we can guarantee our redesigns, because we test our biggest ideas on the existing site. And we know that by the time we launch, we've tested enough that it's going to improve conversion rates. So that'll be
really interesting.
Be my magic wand.
Yeah. So again, it's back to education, isn't it? It's a lot of people, they think that's how websites are done.
And it's how most of them are done. They're not wrong, but it's not right. But I've been railing against this for 19 years. So
fair enough. Right. Okay. Thank you, Brian. Really enjoyed our conversation today.
I did too. Thank you.
Thank you.